When I talk to people about what is going on currently, I try to point inward instead of outward. I know that there are plenty of things to talk about, but I find that those topics can go on endlessly to no real kind of end. A feeling that just is suffocating. And I don't really like that. Me personally, I don't feel like it's fruitful, engaging. Feelings are the most important, the most logical thing that I could ever have, that anyone could ever have. That, at least that's my opinion. That's what I think. So I don't want to have conversations that just feel like it ends into hopelessness, a sandpit of death. I want to talk to people about engagement and redemption. What does it mean to be redeemed? Can you change human will? Can you live a life that you've always imagined? Or can you get better or worse? And what does that mean? I want a platform to stand, something to grab, something tangible, even for a second, and then be able to let go. What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be a philosopher, a thinker, a human? I've always rejected this notion that humanity is evil, but I've also rejected this notion that humanity is good. I say that it is and it isn't. It is what you decide. Someone can always say and argue a different perspective, but it doesn't mean that the perspective is a delusion. It is and it isn't. I've seen the horrors. Me as a black man, I have seen the racism and the bigotry of not only uh, this country, the United States, but the world. I've seen the disgust and the treatment, the the superiority. In fact, I think that the worst form of racism is not something that is very blatant. Someone shouting the N word at me or even threatening to kill me with a shotgun. No. I think it's worse when it's hidden, it's concealed, it's very in your face, and you know it, but you hide behind plausible deniability systems that shelter you. I've seen the true ugliness, and that is deep and embedded, and the only one that knows it is you and I. That is a bond that you have formed and created. You've done that because you love me. Yeah, you would say that is weird that I think of it like that, but a strong positive or negative or a strong anything, a strong presence shows only love to me. It just shows in a different form. Just because love has been given this positive connotation does not mean that that is what it is. It could very well be in a negative connotation and still be love. Someone could love you and harm you because their love is toxic, like a rose. It has thorns. It can prick. A hug could be a little too tight. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. It is often forgotten that most of the worst things that happened was not because of direct malice, but ignorance, not knowing. That is why I say that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference, not caring, not a single bit. And I've known that because I have been on both forms of extreme love and extreme indifference in this, not only the country, but in the world. I've seen others ignore me and only then take on to what I have said when it fits their narrative. My existence is something that doesn't, at least in my perspective, feel like it pops up. there's not an urgency to see me. But in the very same vein, maybe I do. Maybe I'm subtle. Because when I see them, when they see me, and they finally, it's not really discussed. They speak to me as if it was casual or able or like I've never really left. The conversation just seems to flow. And then when it's done and we both have nothing to say, we move on until the next time we meet. And I realized that was the love that I had always loved and appreciated. It was something that was hard fought and a little bit more difficult, but it was simple. And I think that the simple things are hard. Like lifting up a heavy weight, it's a very simple action. It's a heavy weight. The only way to lift that weight is to lift smaller weights that are still heavy until you're able to lift that weight, and then you continue, or maybe maintain. So when I tell people to focus inward, I'm saying don't just look at the state of everything collapsing and saying that it's collapsed, there's no more hope. What happens when everything collapses? Tell me that. Are we dead? Are we done? Do we no longer exist? If that, then shouldn't we be the most happy? I try to switch the frame of thinking or the mindset of others to look at this other perspective. If capitalism collapses, is it good or bad? Some may say good, some may say bad, but I say both exist equally. Good for who? I've always lived my life under capitalism. If it ends, I have to figure out a whole new system and rules. And by that very nature, I would probably reinvent it unknowingly. And as a black man, as a black person, I know the history of slavery, of enslavement, where people were put in chains, enslaved. Not they were never slaves. They were enslaved. They were people. And I know that they come to think of the ideas as the oppressor, using black people as an example. Do not fall victim to the falsehoods or the delusions of freedom. What does it mean to be free? It is not um, just because it's a different level of trap. I am still a slave, or using my own words, enslaved. I was born in an enslaved process. And what I mean is, I did not have chains around my neck, but without the right paperwork, my freedom papers, I could not walk or leave to another country or another place without appeasement to the state or the government. I could not be in certain schools, in certain neighborhoods, without working diligent jobs, without showing my teeth, without bowing my head, without having defeated the odds. I was not allowed to serve the house. I had to be aware. I had to speak properly and kindly. These things had made me trapped. There was nowhere to run to because I would be returned to where was from, not by the other countries, but by myself. I would eventually either, I'll say this. If I go to another country, I don't know how to act. I don't know the language nor the culture. It would be very obvious that I stand out. The things that I was allowed to do are only local to that region. It would be able to tell that I don't fit in. I don't know how I'm supposed to act. In fact, me and the enslaver had bonded. I'm used to serving them. I've gotten used to. You spend 15 years, 20 years, 30 years with someone. you're going to you're going to grow comfortable, grow used to, expect how they live, how they talk, and what angers them and what doesn't. So when you come to a different place and speak to a totally different person, when you say an inside joke, you logically know that they wouldn't get that inside joke, but your body just says it anyway and then looks shocked when they don't reply with the same reply that you've heard 1,000 times. You see it in jails when people come home after incarceration and they still act the same way. Their bunks, their well, not their bunks. I guess their bunks. Their beds made up the same way. The commissaries. You see all of the actions still set up, looking out the window, waiting, waiting for freedom that they have because their mind is still there. That is the worst sort of enslavement. The enslavement that is of your own mind. I know I can't, there will be no punishment for those that say the N word to my face. There will be no punishment for the man or the woman or the child teaching their child something wrong that will harm me. I say you're teaching your child to harm me, and they say it's my right to teach them this way. And until they harm me and show the evidence on my body, they can do that. But my mind is able to be scarred and scorned. I'm able to live in fear because there's no evidence, there's no proof. I have to make a claim that is an emotional charge, but then they'll say it's their right, and it will die in logistics, in money, because I don't have much to begin with. That is a form of slavery. Knowing that I, I'm angry, I'm upset, but I can't afford to fight. That's slavery. I don't have the time that if I say something, if I act out, that I am putting not only myself but my entire community at risk. Because for the fight of equality, the truth that the white counterpart does not understand is that we already give it our all. We do not march and protest in the same manner. See, you when you get tired, you stop. When I get tired, when we get tired, we have to keep going. For you, you have a home to rest your head. You have a career. For me, if I do not continue to march, I will die. They will kill me. They will kill my kids. And you say, no, they'll do the same to me. But I'll say this. My kids are already dying. My kids already have a death certificate in their name. They don't know it yet. They will always be linked to me, be watched by me, be, be harmed and haunted and resent me for speaking up for them. I'm putting them through great pain and torment because I love them and I want them to live better than I. I am telling them and forcing them to reach out for a future that I don't know, but I'm closing off their ability to be complicit, forcing them to continue to go, to become stronger, even though they just want to rest and die, forcing them to live out of you could say selfishness, you could say selflessness, that I'm not even completely sure of myself. You don't have that turmoil. See, when you make these mistakes and these grand gestures and even die to it, that's completely selfish. You dying was even selfish. It was the most selfish. Now you get to be immortalized. You put your life on the line. You're the hero. You didn't have to do it. That's not impressive to me. That should, to me, I do not cheer. I do not weep. I do not mourn. I move on because you to me owed that to me. Your life, the leisure that you had, that came off the backs of my ancestors. That came off the backs of everyone around. And I'm supposed to clap or cheer or cry harder than those that have given their all, their kids, that had thrown their kids overboard so they would not have to deal with the harshness, the pain of not knowing their homes, not seeing their family again. And you think I'm referring to those in the boats forced upon those ships in chains and shackles. But no, I'm saying currently, now. It is just the same equivalent. Those that birth children, those that have to carry family names and legacies and restaurants and communities, those that say that they want to live and they need to improve the culture, that still walk around and try to juggle both because they refuse to let the existence of us die. It is incredibly painful to still have someone berate you and call you stupid and ignorant for wanting to live, to want to do what's natural, to remain doing something natural. When you die, when the I call every I'll just use white people because that is the main, but that's not the only. But to use that, it is important. You will watch as they become some sort of hero or standard. Like you don't have to, but you do it. But it's the hero complex, the savior complex. When you do something right, it's almost as if you did nothing at all. You shouldn't want praise. In fact, no black person out there wants their picture taken or their face immortalized. You know, anyone that truly wants change. I won't say specifically black people because I know that there are those among us that would. But those that truly want change don't want their face postered. They want the actual change. For me, I would give up a million, billion, a trillion, I don't care the amount of money, to not experience the pain. But to truly have that amount of money and to pay that, to truly not experience the pain. Every black person, every person that I would ever have met would have to be on the same page and be free of the shackles of racism. And that is not something that will be done easily. That's not something that I know that I would not experience in my lifetime. I can have those that may be born not knowing, but they will eventually grow to know, which is a pain. As long as I exist, it exists. I can't live, as Fanon, was it Frantz Fanon? Whatever. Or Foucault. I think it was Foucault. How can I destroy evil? How can you truly move on if you know you must no longer be there as well for it to be truly completely destroyed? But those don't see it like that. They want to be immortalized. They want to be remembered. They want to have their posters. They want to be a leader. But a true leader resents, and I won't say resents, but hates being leader. It's a bitter, sweet, it's a painful thing watching your friends and family die, those you have grown close to. You can ask any general, any true leader. It sucks making decisions that really don't feel like they have any good outcome. Yes, you like when something is clear and concise and you know the plans and you've experienced. The experience is good. Now you could lead men and make sure that they get back home safe, but there are days where you know the men will not get back home safe, and you know that you will live, and you have to live, because if you don't live, someone's going to have to retake your position, learn the same things that you did, and carry that burden, the true burden, realizing that it's not going to be an easy day. You're not going to just make a social media post and say racism's bad. You're not going to be some social media icon, and in fact, that it will be a silent thing that you've done. I was talking to my girlfriend about how much I hate, um, I won't say hate, I hate to say, but I extremely dislike how even white allies, the ones that are supposedly educated, the white liberal that Malcolm X had talked about, but more importantly, just is the things that I'd witnessed. They would take content that was talked about and say and reveal, hey, this is a problem, this is negative, and they would get views like on TikTok or YouTube, and they'll say, listen how bad this is. There was a influencer talking about how words very selectively um, harm the black community. There was things about settlers and grouping black people into the terms of settlers. But there was also just how AAVE is being used and spread and talked about as internet slang or TikTok language, and how people are just using the words and not caring about the history. And no matter how many times it's brought up and how many people pat and cheer themselves on the back, that they're not using it, that's where they stop. In fact, they stole the content, the ideas, the words, and they might credit the black person that they got it from or the other influencer, but it what it did was stall, was recycle into the same movement, the same information. So it didn't do anything. It didn't pump any new blood anywhere. Maybe it leaked out into a different part. Maybe it got to one other person, but it really didn't do anything to push anything. Oh, you say, well, one person could change the world. That's true. I don't deny that, but let's be honest. You you didn't do this to change that one person. You didn't do this to really engage. You wanted the popularity. You wanted the clout. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you say, I'm doing this for clout, I know this is the right thing to do. I just want clout though. And if you say that and state that, then I can, like, yes, I would most likely not engage with you. I'm not just going to give you free things. But that honesty, that authentic nature might lead you into figuring out a better role for you. But re reinventing the wheel isn't going to liberate black people. In fact, it just wastes time having the same 7 conversations instead of actually saying, hey, we got to actually figure out a way to hold people accountable. Not we should hold people accountable. That's a statement that's been driven home, the nail removed from the wood, placed back into the wood, and hammered down again till the hole is loose, and no longer does the nail even stick. And then people start to believe that the nail was never in the wood in the first place, that it never existed, that was never a common sense thing, and we should just get rid of the nail in the board in the first place. No, the true problem, the true issue, it lies in fixing your own mindset and thinking, in fact, more selfishly. What is truly going to get you what you want? Is it going to get you all that you want? Because you think that giving that information, even though you know, okay, I'm regurgitating, maybe I'll get a new audience. None of those people are going to actually engage either. It's just more self-righteous people patting themselves on the back. Maybe engaging with the content, learning the information, but without, because they engage with that content, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a feel good, a fix, the next hit, but they're not looking for action. I had learned while being in a relationship with my girlfriend that you're not, well, actually, no, I learned this before. I knew this before, long before I knew. You will not find your significant other, the love of your life, uh, trying to date every single woman or man or person. You will not go out and continue until eventually you stumble across them. It will be a conscious and subconscious effort. The only way that you will find that you love and care about someone is when you yourself can love yourself. When you know of yourself. So I had realized that I had known that I had to truly love myself for me to ever be capable of loving anyone else. And it took a lot of work. And it was easy to lie and give people what I thought that they wanted. And then sometimes I did. But then even when I got what I wanted, I didn't get what I wanted. I was playing a character, a lie, a role. It was interesting, but it wasn't true. There was nothing to myself. There was nothing that I had what I said I wanted, but I knew that that's not what I wanted. You want to be the face of black liberation, but then when you get to be the face, you then tear it down because you didn't actually want to be the face. You just wanted your white peers to accept you, to say the same things, but you realize that you don't have a personality. You don't have anything. You've never had anything interesting to say. You just wanted to say what you thought others were interested in, and you were willing to repeat them. That you were a follower. The saddest sort of existence. I am not angry for you doing that. I am simply upset because when you finally get to that place, that's where you have the chance to change and grow. But I am upset with myself, for I've noticed it, and I don't know what I should do. I don't know if I should say something or risk my life and put myself in a compromising position. For I too am selfish. I truly want change though, so I say something knowing that I might die. But I realize that if I die, then I truly live. We're going to die regardless. It is how you choose to live, what you choose to say, and what words you stand by. But that means that there's no, with going back a little bit, even when you make error, mistakes, if you genuinely do something and you're aware that you have done something, living in shame is not going to do that for anyone. Those people that become aware of their error, they sit there and sulk and complain, and that is good. Sulk, sulk a little, but do not stay in that place. That's why I warn you. Do not view others as objects. Do not try to compare yourself and say and look at a finished product to your a finished product to your project. I think that sometimes you see a way and you think, let's go the easier way, because the harder way might not give me the the desired outcome. But you should ask yourself, what is your desired outcome, and to be honest with yourself. I was always angry at white people, not for the racism, the bigotry, the sexism. It's like that comes with everyone in a way, in a form. If you do not acknowledge it, it will come. I was always saddened. The all the wealth and nothing to spend it on. The boredom. the fact that it just, I look at them and I say, we have so much in common. And you love me so much that it turns into a blind anger and fury because you can't buy what I have. You want the words to feel important. You want to match what I am saying because you know what I am saying is true and you believe it and it hurts because you can't really rectify it. You could say all the words and try to imitate the tone, but you genuinely don't speak the language. For me, it was like speaking Spanish. When I was learning another language, I was reading some of the words, but I knew that it would take a longer time than one class or just like a couple years in Duolingo. It would take actual time and dedication. But I realized when taking Spanish is that I wasn't ready to learn. I did, I did it, I tried, I comprehended, and I think I genuinely have a better grasp than I started. But the truth is, it's okay to say that I'm not ready to learn that right now. There are other things that I feel are pulling and tugging, trying to fix my own community, my own life. But what does it mean to fix? What are you trying to accomplish? As Simone de Beauvoir says, in order to free others, you must free yourself. You cannot put on another's oxygen mask and you have to put your own oxygen mask on first in order to help someone put on theirs. And what does it mean to help your own community? And in fact, I I implore white people to look upon their own communities. For you will not be the cure to the pains and aches of my community. Not directly. Or some maybe directly and others maybe not. I say fine, what do you actually want? Do you like cosplaying, being second fiddle for someone so superior, for something so superior? You find so many frustrating and lackluster things. I had gotten into a small TikTok argument until I had to recenter myself, where this girl was, oh, they spilled the tea. We finna get into it, and girl, and it was like, and what I said was, you're saying all this AAVE, and you didn't speak like this. And the reply was to laugh, the laughing emoji, and to laugh in my face, and to say, I always talk like this. I've always been talking like this. And the truth is that I didn't get any engagement or response. and I had laughed and cried. I had cried because I genuinely wanted to call this person out, not to get clout, for change. And the truth is, I was going to get what I wanted. That person will never amount to anything. Not like that. They're going to cast aside the accent and try to live their life, and they're going to be an excruciatingly boring and insufferable person to be around. People like that engage on content that puts people down, that talks about people, and talks about subjects that they don't they have knowledge in, but they themselves will not do. They don't have the strength or courage to actually engage. They want to be. They want to be famous. They will be willing to do things, but they don't have enough to actually be there. They talk about the people that are willing to go that extra mile and say and watch them as they spiral down into this devastating hole. And the others will talk like they are so much better, but I would venture to say that I this is specifically about Love Island, a TV series that my girlfriend is. I got first forced, but now I have I've basically passively submitted to um, because I like having a girlfriend, and and I would like to continue that. That person to me, whatever 30K, 300K. I think it was like 32K last time I saw likes on TikTok. I had to say to myself, half of those are bots. Half of those are just like people that just learn to click and then scroll off. That person, I'm not saying will live a terrible life, like they'll be poor, like every person's going to be homeless. And no, they are subjected to what I think is a worse fate. Absolute boringness. No personality. Conversations that are like the only thing that you could do is just talk about people. People that don't acknowledge you. You're only famous because someone else is famous, and you're talking about that you're always having to be around um, a sequence of fame. But you yourself are never going to be famous. You're going to sell products or try to scam people. And when people finally get fed up of scamming, when people finally get fed up, you are going to be on the other side and trying to lighten the consequences because you know yourself was doing it. But I am tired. I am tired of consequences being lightened because we are afraid of taking the consequences ourselves. The truth in the world is that if you really want things to change, like that Michael Jackson song, you got to start with yourself. Are you willing to actually take the consequence? And no, yes, I'm willing to take. Are you willing to actually take the consequence? Saying yes and living yes are always two different things. Because if you're not, say you're not. But but that's the way of just acknowledging and saying, yeah, there are consequences, and I am not ready to take those yet. But that could be freeing because then that makes life harder. I say all of the truth is the hardest way because when you say, yeah, I'm not, and then you walk away, you get this guilt, you get this feeling, life doesn't feel as fun anymore, the games that you're doing, what you did to distract yourself no longer works. And you say, that's bad, that's terrible, oh no. But I say, that's great. You're taking on the responsibility. And then when you actually truly are trying to atone, you're not beating yourself up anymore. You still think about it, but you also say, no, I'm doing my best. I'm trying. It's a somber voice. The only thing that I'm here for is to tell people, well, I won't say the only thing, but one of the things that I implore people to do is not overbeat yourself up. Do not do not cry over spilled milk. Do not overdo your punishment. Do not whip yourself 30 times. If the crime says you have to uh, run a mile, don't run two, just to show how sorry you are. Because if you're truly sorry, you will just do the necessary punishment and then move on. That shows that you're sorry. But if you do too much, you're not only while you're running 2 miles, you're saying, well, you know what, we should make them run 2 miles. It made that person look better. Or you start to um, glamorize punishment. Or instead of going and being their friend and spending time with them, oh, I made them run 2 miles. Now I feel guilty. Now I have to do something for you because you overdid it. Now I can really trust you again. No. When you have done something and I say, I can forgive you, do what I said. Doing any more is showing that you are still thinking just about yourself. Just about yourself. There's a difference between being selfish uh, and thinking about yourself, caring about another as well, thinking about me. I didn't do it because I wanted to do it. I did it because I had to do it, and I thought having you do a punishment to realize and recognize your action, and then once you do it, you won't do it again. You're not going to make me the bad guy and make it sound like you had done an endearing task. Oh, he had done too. He was so great because he really apologized. He really understood. No, that's a form of abuse. Taking away the actions, the eyes, even if you don't think so, because you didn't think, and that was your initial problem. You didn't think. I say to my white counterpart, the true white ally, or I should say the white ally, because the white ally exists. The names are important. Had never been has been tainted in the ears of others, but has never been tainted. I won't say never. Has not been tainted to me. The truth is that we need to stop considering people white allies that do not fit the description. If you do things that hurt the black community, and people tell you, and you do not change your behavior, you're not a white ally. You were never an ally in the first place. You were always just a different form of a supremacist, of an abuser. An abuser does not always have to be physically abusive or does not always have to yell, but passive aggressive. Often in a small, quiet tone, possible deniability, refusing to listen, and refusing to engage. So overly filled with pride and ego that you can always tell that they will not have shame. And it's not to, again, not overly shame, and it's not just do what you can. It's step back to engage and listen, to call out when necessary, even those it is not to remove um, white people from the ability to call out black people from doing things that are performative in anti-blackness and white supremacy. In fact, you are probably the only ones to really be able to call it out. It is to not get engrossed. I am actually truly deeply I see it and I say, this is your form of redemption. See, you're not blinded to the same bias. I can't do what you do. I will always be in this black lens. As great as it is, I can't ever make that call because I am not outside the realm of white supremacy. White supremacy does not touch you as it touches me. It has to be you authentically and truly want to change it. But you have to accept that you might get killed amongst them. You might be grouped amongst the people that you helped because we can't differentiate. And yeah, that sucks, right? Isn't that scary? You just helped a whole bunch of people and knowing that they'll kill you, but knowing it was the right thing to do. That's what keeps you warm. In fact, you want to die that way. Is it better to die in a house that you hated, cozy and warm, but you absolutely hated the blankets and linens? That you were always complaining about how this isn't right, but you never actually did anything? You could have died in the field, like with the veterans, with the military members, is always talked about. Why did I even come home to die like this? I could have died in Iran or Iran, Pakistan, anywhere. You could have died anywhere. And at least you could have said, I believed in this and I'm going to fight this and I'm going to do what's right and die a warrior's death. Now I got to sit there and say, no, I'm going to be cool now. I'm just going to eat my cupcakes. I'm going to ignore everything that was done all my friends that have died in the complete fight in the first place, I say that if that is where, if you were truly about it, that doesn't fill you with fear. But if you have this side goal of getting praise, well, I say then just go and fail or do something good. Do what you wish. Like, I'm not going to ever deny it. I say that that's not my that's not my problem. It is and it isn't. Um, if you make content and try to exploit black people, that I say those black people, um, in a way, deserve to get exploited. To me, for I say I will say the truth. The truth is out there. Whether it's me or someone else, I had not learned all these things by myself. I had engaged with all the other information. And yes, I know that the access to the information isn't for everyone, but to those, I can figure out who had access and who didn't. I can tell what they're engaging. When I see people online and I see them as old as I am or older, I say, have you tried? Have you strived to actually engage with the information? Usually, it's those that are very close to me, those that think that they're so smart that they will never fall to it. Those that would refuse to ever humble themselves because they think that it's impossible for them to ever mess up. Those that make absolutes and define themselves, but you cannot define yourself, for you are always ambiguous. It is usually those that preach God the loudest, those that have to be seen, those that have to be worshipped. Their intelligence always have to be spoken about. And those that are willing to condemn and speak down on others, those that are willing to always say how dumb and how trivial others, what groups and movements that they are a part of, and how great they are for being in it, and how long it will last because they are in it. And they always try to engage and gather others into it. A cult, well, they can always remain in a hierarchical standing. I had been here a month before you, so I'm in a higher standing. That you can never break out of the hierarchy. That you will never not be indebted to them. Those are the ones that become parents and say that this is my child, this is my son, but never says their name and speaks about them as people. That they never earn their child's respect, but demand that the child respects them. See, that's why I'm not worried. For I say that not everyone is that, but those who do not have access to the information, they will they will have this look on their face, a question, that they will have a sadness. They will be confused with a statement. They will seek the information elsewhere. It is that sadness that will always lead them because they aren't satisfied with this answer. Because something is always left out because they are always questioning. I can always tell someone that I feel has potential because it's not that they won't do actions that I dislike, but they won't necessarily like them. They'll feel a bit empty while doing it, and always will seek to do more and more and more and more. They won't be content in their small roles. They won't be content, and even when they're on this path that is what someone will say a greater evil. Why I have a better chance of changing the mind of an aspiring Nazi than ever the uh, the stagnant intelligent, because I can look at at a soldier, because that's what a Nazi is, a soldier, at a certain time or mindset. And I asked, are you doing this to go into a role of suicide? Are you trying to become greater? What is your goals or your ambitions? Now, if the soldier does not aspire, if the soldier is content or happy, drinks away its life, um, there's nothing I can do for it. But if the soldier is miserable, if the soldier questions orders, if the soldier is good but still finds a sort of misery, that is the mind that I am trying to engage with. But if you yourself never stop and try to engage or let that anger come, because like I for me, that TikToker that showed me something, that person was not able to read my anger and frustration. They thought that I was a hater coming at them. Hater, hater, hater. So it closed its ears. But that anger and frustration was not at them, but something greater. Had they stopped and listened, even though they couldn't understand, I could explain more, a deeper conversation, a friendship, a bond. But because they had felt called out, they had sealed their own fate because they never stopped to question why they did this. You'll always, well, I won't say always, I don't know. But I feel like if you do not try, if you do not question, if you do not just for the sake, and I'm being serious, be unserious. And just for the sake of it, say, why the heck not? Run the test again. If there is nothing else, if you're bored, just do it again. There's many times where I've been bored and I said, I don't want to watch any new anime or any new TV shows. And I said, oh, right, might as well. And I watched something and I might not necessarily love it or it might change my entire life. And that experience is so exhilarating. Listening to a new song, a new album, a new artist. I, for the last few years, the last few months, no, my entire life, to be honest, I had tried something new, experiences that I never tried before, and I'm healing on pain that was not mine. I had been shot. I had went to the military. I had uh, bought my own house. I had went to school again. I had tried after I had graduated. Um, I had pregnancy scares. I had went on dates to adventures, go karting, archery, mountain climbing, um, hiking, boats, and yes, it took money. It took money. That's never. But I said I desired it. It wasn't to pull myself up by my bootstrings. Oh, go do these things. I want everyone to be able to do that. That's why I fight because like how many things am I missing out on? How many things was I not able to do because I was not financially able to? There are more things. That's why I'm fighting so hard because I say I deserve to do that. I did all these. I instead of trying to make it humble me and say you should be content. You should be grateful that you had the ability to do that. Others do not have that ability. I say, well, there are others that have the ability to do that and I think I should have that ability. And I think others should as well. I do not have to lower my head. I do not have to put myself on a pedestal, nor I have to roll myself up into a ball. I can stand firmly on my feet, but also my body is malleable. I can bow my head with no shame. I also can stand up tall, and I will fight and die if need be without any hesitation. anything holding me back, because I am at peace and content with myself. That is what freedom is to me. To be myself, my authentic self. And at the end, which everyone is a book, everyone is their own story. That would be the end of my story. But an end fitting of myself. Every person is a book, and at the end of the book is a fitting ending for the person that they were. For the person that they you would say, why do people die and suffer? Because in the story, if the story is written well, there were people that could, that should have done something, but they did not do what the preventative measures, the measures that would have prevented that person to die. And then they say that it was God. Their story was sad because people had not engaged to make the story better. If you say, well, I've written the story and nobody was at fault, then I say the fault is in the creator. To live in a world where it could create something that had caused no fault, and to come up with these ideas and these experiences. In the grander purpose, how does a world like that, if the world was so peaceful, they would have never even created that idea, that twisted form and way in the first place. How does one create a world like that? We take reference from the world, and the world refers to us. Art reflects the world, and the world reflects art. So there is nothing that does not reference anything else. And so there is nothing that is so perfect that it does not match a rule, the world rules. We've seen others try to make works that detach from any rules or words or statements, and it always fails because it feels flat or incomplete. It has no conflict, it has nothing. A form of a perfect world. And even in that form of perfection, there still lies imperfection. They can't make a perfect world, or at least when we think of a perfect world, we think of nothing. We already know the concept of perfect. It is nothing. But who's watching nothing? If I told you, don't turn on the TV and this is the best show, and it's just black and it's nothing, even that, you will have a thought. Someone could even laugh because they referred or thought of what I had said. If you said that was a show, then someone had to agree and acknowledge. Why did they put just nothing but a black screen? It's an inside reference. Something. A waste. Why would anyone waste time with a black screen? Why would anyone put that on? Why would someone think of nothing? All of this is just to implore you to look within yourself, to say, why are you taking it so serious? To take something serious, but not to make yourself an object that needs to be so serious as well. That I say that the biggest solution to all of this is to take your time, to move slowly and with caution, to learn as much as you can, and to even think as many times as you need until you are content with a course. Someone will tell you that you are overthinking. I've heard that my entire life. And I say, how does one overthink? You think an action until there's no other action or no other thought to think, and you say by then that there's no action at all. But if you could live and just think about an action and no action has ever actually occurred, and you then live your life the way it was or the way that you had intended, what's the harm in that? It is, people have this fantasy that a philosopher sits there and thinks, but they forget that we are human, that we eat, that we sleep, that we cry, that we lust, that we love, that we do all of these emotions that force us to even make the thought in the first place. You are not a fool to think. You are a genius to wait until you have got it to yourself, understanding that there's a time that you will have to make a decision. It is not something that is optional, but mandatory. When you think, you will eventually come to a conclusion. So never stop thinking. That is what humanity is. Think forever. Think until the sun comes down. Think until you are nearly at your grave. And then speak. Yes, that sounds like a phenomenal idea. You will have consequences if you do not do an action. That is true. I agree. But why do anything that you can't even say that you're content with? Yes, maybe with more time you would have thought a better conclusion. With more time you would have thought all of the ingenious ways once you've learned something. But you have to do it once in the first place to ever even come to more conclusions, to be more assured. That is science. That is math. That is everything possible. I will finish with this next 20 minutes. And that in high school, in middle school, I had made acts and decisions that were embarrassing. I remember pulling my pants down during a dance competition, shaking my junk to a song, and I embarrassed myself. And after that, I had always beaten myself up terribly over and over again. Oh, embarrassed that I danced, that I did provocative. I saw, I replicated what I had saw, and I then decided to shame myself for a middle school boy. That was the time to do that. Imagine if I did it when I was an adult. Imagine I did it when I was 30 years old. I had made a decision. It embarrassed me. If I had known now what I knew then, I wouldn't have done it. But if I did not ever do it, I would have never known it, and I may have done it in the future. There is no regret. I just take accountability. Yes, I cringe, and it's not a really great feeling. But it's a point of vulnerability that I must have. I must have with myself to say that I was an imperfect being, that I am an imperfect being, and I am perfect being me. That it still shows something to me. Now I understand why it was wrong, what was wrong, why it was wrong. But I also learned that it was okay to dance again. That I cried, but I didn't blame anyone. And I learned that I cannot continue to blame myself. Embarrassing. But the friends that I have don't ever bring it up. No one even remembers but myself. I might make reference to it, but even those, it's crazy. Crazy. Even those that were there probably barely remember it, if anything at all. And even now, it's a struggle, but it's a fight that I'm willing to have because it is something permanent that I could say that I can overcome. The difference between the man that I was yesterday and the man that I am today, whether that yesterday be 10 years or 20 years, is that I am continuing to grow and to heal. It is something that has happened. It is something that is permanent to me, but something that I might be able to let go later on and only vaguely remember. Or it might be something that I always say, hey, yeah, I did it, but maybe I can laugh about it one day. Maybe the thing that I hated the most will be something that gives me great pleasure when I'm older. No longer when I have the same ego. Maybe when I don't have my legs and I can say it. Or something to talk about extremely embarrassing when if I ever get into some prominence or I have kids, something to relate to them and say, oh, you don't know embarrassing, you're an old man, and they'll say, yeah, no, that's embarrassing, glad I didn't do that. It might be my greatest tool. To be strong is to turn your weaknesses into strengths. To be strong is not to avoid fear or conflict, but to head towards it with knowledge, knowing that it may kill you, but that is the only way to live. It is truly a difficult and exciting life. I make this not in a way that is highly edited in the greatest form and format, but as a way to get my words out there, to try, to put myself in a position to get views or garner views from 1 to 20 to thousands to a million, I don't know. But to be me, to say words that will or may not agitate anyone, because if no one listens to it, then there's no issue there, and may agitate those, which is the thing that I always kind of set out to do, to change. I want money, but what did I want the money for? Peace. I wanted money so I didn't have to worry about um, getting evicted or worried about where my next meal was. So I can spend time with my children. So I can spend time learning and enjoying more things and having peace and fixing the problems. So I have to be there. That's the reason we go to college. That's the reason we go to school. It's not for the degree. It is not for the the six-figure job that pays you the big bucks. It's for the experience. It's for the education, in my opinion, all of that. Because that is irreplaceable. You can sit there and stack money and look at and count 100, 100, 117 times, and that sounds great. But there's something that you can't replace. The happiness, the jokes, the laughs, the tears, the frustration, holding someone tight. You can't pay someone to replicate that. You can't pay someone to. People I'll say with this, celebrities try and live and look young for so long. They do all of these things to avoid looking older, but they forgot that, or I won't say they forgot. That is actually kind of funny because it looks kind of weird to look young forever, to have all that experience and knowledge, and you refuse to age, to live to be 20 forever, to live to be to talk bad about someone forever. I don't plan on always being the way that I am. I don't want to be a revolutionary forever. I don't want to be an engineer or computer scientist or a doctor or a lawyer or a military member. I don't want to be that forever because I want to be all things, anything. I want to still be the kid that dreamed of all possibilities until I've exhausted every way. If I can't have that thing today, then what do I have to do to have it? I want to be able to open every door. I want to live as God lives, knowledge of everything. I want to be connected to God. And I'll also say that I'm not hyper religious, but I also am. I do not have any denomination, but I heavily reference Christianity. But I think truly to live is to try to be God, to be perfect, to have everything, to hold everything, to know the reference, to be the decider of good and bad. Why don't I like this? Why did I do this? Why won't I ever do this again? What is a reference of doing something once and what is doing something 1,000 times. I've never gone to Disney World. That sounds like something cool. But I've been to an amusement park. I don't go often. Why isn't it something that I do more? Why do I enjoy playing Tekken more? Is it cheaper? Is it easily? Is it all of it being said? Do not extend this any further. All of life is connected. That is life to me. Do your best. And with that being said, I'm done.